always thought I was more of an introvert, right? I like being alone or whatever. But this year taught me, holy smokes, do I need people, right? I think just as a whole, YouTube has really shifted too. And that's why, if I am doing something that's maybe more about my life instead of tech, I still try to rein it in and keep it super focused as well. I think intros that serve a purpose are great, but if it's 20 seconds of you doing a slow-mo clip of you holding a camera, we get it, you're a YouTuber, so I know you shoot with a camera, move on.
You've talked to people who have been wildly successful with just everything, and also people who have just gotten started. At what point should people start thinking about getting money for the thing they do? So if you're in the same high school kid type thing, what do you do that makes you dorky the way uploading on YouTube would have been back in that day? And as you answer that, Kevin, what was dorky for us in our era?
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. It is TCU night, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We are live on Discord, as always, with our patrons and with our lurkers or patrons are in the episode chat. We have some dumpster crew members, some infantry, some amazing baby gangs, and of course, $2 tots. You can start there and then work your way up eventually, like everyone does. With me, as always, is Matthew Tabor.
Yeah, and you can probably hear through our wonderful Electro Voice RE20s that Kevin and I are both fully vaccinated at this point. I don't know if we're fully recovered. We're not 100% in terms of energy, but we got the deed done with the stabbing and the juice that they put in you, however that works.
Yeah, I was strutting around like a peacock food shopping last night, just feeling great. I dare you to try to give me COVID. You cannot. It won't work.
Well, I think a couple super spreaders out there like J Station who'd be happy to accept your challenge.
What? I don't even know about this.
I think he posted an Instagram about a week ago about how he tested positive, and then I think he went to a shopping mall and just walked around and coughed or something. It was insane.
Isn't that illegal?
I think he's been banned from every meaningful platform. But yeah, there's just somebody listening here who's like, oh, Kevin thinks he's invincible. Great. I'll put this hypothesis to the test.
Right. I'm going to mail him something.
Yeah. Kevin's got to iron his mail for the next month.
Oh, God.
But it's good. Yeah, we missed our respective weeks, and now we're back, and we're ready to poke and prod a new guest, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yes, together. Yes. And this is a guest that's really kind of a long time coming, because a lot of what she does is really in the wheelhouse of TCU. So it's a natural fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And our guest comes from the tech side of YouTube originally. And that puts her in with previous Create Unknown alumni like Austin Evans and iJustine. But like Kevin said, they also have a bit of a unique connection there. Kevin and our guest were Ghostbusters and Vsauce 3's Could You Survive the Movies. Sara Dietschy, pronounced like peachy, first uploaded to YouTube in 2011 to demo a guitar pedal. She now has over 750,000 subscribers who tune in for her thoughts on cameras, laptops, phones, and a ton of other gadgets in the tech sphere. She also has a podcast called That Creative Life, which touches on similar themes as the Create Unknown. We consider them a direct competitor, and we're going to sabotage them eventually. That's just the way this industry works. But we'll play nice today, so they can have a last hurrah. But it's it's safe to say that we're kind of kindred spirits in the realm of exploring entrepreneurship and being online creators and really getting into what it's all about, how it works, how people can do it better, how they can get started to do it at all. Sara also recently made a major change of scenery, moving out of New York City. and back to Texas. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some switchboard AI, and we want to start though with what food are you going to miss the most? That there's got to be something like love or hate New York City. Everybody likes to eat a certain thing there that you can kind of only get there. So what are you going to miss?
Oh, that's such a great start. First of all, thank you guys for having me. Thank you for that lovely intro. It's an honor to be here. I think the classic answer would probably have to be some type of pizza, right? Or Italian food, or there's so much Thai food in New York. But I think the thing I will say is when we were living in Hell's Kitchen, we were right above this amazing poke spot. So it was called Red Poke. It's like 43rd and 9th. And oh my gosh, the bowls there, it might sound weird to be like, I'm going to miss that poke spot, but it's that poke spot, Red Poke. I have dreams about it sometimes. So good.
Is it just a combination of things that can't be replicated elsewhere because it's that one unique place?
Yeah, I don't think it's a chain. So I definitely think it's unique. And it's also, sorry, we got big trucks out here in Texas, if you heard that. Someone's showing off out there. Yeah, so I don't think it's a chain. And it's one of those things that it's so fresh and it's so quick. And I think that's what is so amazing about places like in New York. Honestly, I don't know if a lot of those places are still in business, unfortunately, because a lot of things really got hit hard this past year. But I was such a big fan of just like fresh, original places that you can get super quick. And that was Red Poke. Shout out to that place, man. Good times. I'm hungry now.
Sorry to belabor this, but I'm so interested by the whole notion of it because a lot of these places are shutting down. By the way, my local Pizza Hut has been demolished. You know how
Pizza Hut.
It's been demolished. Yeah, it's like if I had I can list reasons to live on like a Post-it note, and that was one of them.
Literally demolished, like bulldozed?
Like actually bulldozed?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet. I don't know if I want to, but I hear a Panera is going in instead. So yeah, I mean, God, I forgot what the poke question is. I got distracted by the chat talking about.
I want to ask what poke is exactly, because I think I've had it before. Is it Pokemon. Like raw fish with like soy sauce or something?
So it's a lot of like bowls. So you got different varieties of fish, a lot of times, sometimes like grilled chicken. And then you just have a bowl of, white or brown rice, a lot of garnish, whether it's like seaweed or green onion, or those little, like the crunchy garlic things. Oh, so yummy. So it's kind of the vibe of like, you pick the rice, you pick the chicken or fish, and then you just put all these lovely toppings on top, and it's just fresh.
That does sound good. My answer is bagels.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I should have said that too.
You cannot
I'm such
get
a bread
good
eater.
Bagels anywhere else. You can't.
Do you guys believe the thing about like the alkaline water in New York making the bagels taste differently?
Oh, 100%.
Do you think that's real?
Well, I 100% think so, because wherever you go, it doesn't taste as just like fresh or New York bagel. It's such a unique taste, and it's just so fluffy. Of course, there's not a ton of preservatives in them, so you have to eat them the day you get them. I made the mistake of like picking my favorite bagel shop and like ordering like 6. They don't stay fresh because they don't have preservatives often. But yes, bagels, and then just like green onion cream cheese, or schmear, like they call it. Ooh. They call it over there.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt? Do you not buy it? Because bagels anywhere else are always so much more bready. And I don't know where the breadiness comes from, but in New York, they're so chewy and light. Yeah, dense. Yeah. Right. It's like dense and bready. But only in New York, they're like these little, just little discs of light, fluffy wonder with, I don't know, ridiculous amounts of cream cheese on top.
Yeah. More cream cheese than bread sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just the worst. Like, I'm the worst person to ask about the ins and outs of bagel density.
All right.
I just
have to
I get stuck on like, like why is there a hole in the middle? I mean, I understand the way they're made, but
That's a good question.
It just seems bizarre. Like, why can't you make just a perfectly flat, like, pancake bagel?
Well,
I'm sure there's some part of the process.
no.
Yeah, you're stuck on
Like
this,
the-
Kevin, because you know it's a good idea. Wouldn't you want a sandwich made out of that? Like a true bagel bun that was like a real bun? I would.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, aren't you getting more of the bagel outside, though, with the ring shape? Or no, in terms of surface area? Because
maybe.
you get more, because of the ring, it's more outside. Whereas if it were
I don't
like
like
a
it.
bun, I don't know.
You guys might be onto something. New business.
I
Holeless
don't like it.
bagels.
I don't like biting in the thing and then like it squeezes out in the hole in the middle and this is just badly designed.
It's part of the experience, though. It's like the frustration of crab legs, okay? Like, crab legs are annoying to eat. But the inconvenience is part of the experience, because if you just have a pile of crab meat and you eat it as if it were, I don't know, like a bowl of chicken salad, it's not
not
even
the same,
nearly
no.
as interesting.
No. That's a good technique to master too. That's something that kids never know how to do because they tend not to be into crab legs, you know. So there's this awkward stage of life between like 18 and 25 where you want to eat crab legs because your palate is refined now, but you do not have the crab leg skills, and you fumble and you screw around with everything to get there. It's just a nightmare. And then you hit like 28, 29, 30. You're good at crab legs. It's like the world has been unlocked for you.
Is this a euphemism?
It's
Are you trying to tell us something?
It's like the virgin crab leg eater versus the Chad crab leg eater.
yes. There's absolutely metaphors in this. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Maybe we should talk to Sarah, though. Because
Yeah.
I do want to talk
I'm
about
enjoying
this New York to Texas thing, because I watched your video about talking about like the move and everything, and the need for you to feel like to progress basically in your career and in your personal life, like you had to get out of the city. And in a lot of ways, I went through a similar, I don't want to call it a midlife crisis, but it's
Like a quarter life crisis?
yeah, that's a thing. The quarter life crisis. It's totally a thing. So, and I got out of LA for a similar reason, and also New York years before that for the same thing. But
Where are you based now?
I just live in Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere in the woods.
Love
I'm
it.
lucky to have electricity and a flush toilet, and it's great. I'm like Bill Gates when he escapes civilization with his books and his Diet Cokes.
I love it. Is that where like a lot of your family is?
Yeah. And like I'm seeing this happen. Colin Moriarty, who has a bunch of podcasts, recently left, I think, LA to move to Virginia and buy a house and be, near his family. So this is a thing. And we've never talked about this thing on this podcast before. So I think this is the perfect time to talk to you about this quarter life
definitely.
crisis thing.
Yeah, it was quite the journey. Still in it, I feel like it, but it was kind of like, I might need to leave to survive. I love New York City so much, and honestly, there was a moment during the pandemic too where we were kind of right in the middle of it, and we're like, we're gonna stick it out. It's gonna be fine. This is gonna blow over. It's gonna be fine, everyone. It's gonna blow over. And we were kind of faced with like a super big life decision. And through that, I was just like, no, we're gonna stick it out in New York. We're gonna do this. And then just the more time went on, the more, literally like, I don't think I ever got COVID, but the ramifications of freaking out and scrolling on Twitter and reading the news all the time, I was like destroying my body. Like anxiety was crazy through the roof. I had never really experienced that before. Literally like physically, I was like losing a ton of hair for the first time. Whoa. Like I would be in the shower and pull out like hundreds of hair. That might be TMI. But you read up and you're like, oh, that happens when you've had a stressful event 3 to 6 months after or something. So it was just like stuff like that. I was just kind of worrying myself into this like crazy person, which I'm sure I'm not alone with that. I feel like collectively we were all kind of freaking out, especially in the beginning, right? And as we were trying to navigate this new normal, I hate that word, but now it's just normal. So there was just some things too that, you know, personally, I was just trying to work through. And then when your environment isn't helping you, when, you know, the few friends that you had in the city already left, when the opportunities that you were so used to of like tech events all the time, seeing friends, you know, the casual, I've never been that person that has just like a ton of friends, but I have maybe like 2 people that I'm super close with. And then I love that I just have this kind of like outer network. This is why I love YouTube so much, of just like internet friends where I get to see them once or twice a year. And that's good. That's like perfect for me. Right. And that usually like fills that void. And I love just like meeting up with inspiring people, having like meaningful 1 or 2 days with them, and then being like, see you in 6 months. I'm going to go back to my bat cave and work on videos. And so it was crazy. And because, you know, I've kind of navigated friendships and relationships like that my entire life, I always thought I was more of an introvert, right? I like being alone or whatever. But this year taught me, holy smokes, do I need people, right? So maybe I'm still like an introvert in terms of I recharge alone, but that doesn't mean that I don't need humans. Oh my gosh. Like a few months in, I just went, kind of crazy. I'm like, not only do I miss my family, I miss just those casual events where you're seeing people, you're meeting new people, you're rubbing elbows. I actually do get a lot of energy from that. So that's kind of where it started. And then it just seemed like things just kept getting worse, you know? And like, of course, like people are getting vaccinated, and I feel like we do see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's pretty crazy to be here in 2021 and still be talking about this. Because I don't think we expected it to last so long. So yeah, it just started with that, and then it just snowballed. And then I was just, you know, in that kind of small New York apartment staring out to these buildings that once just gave me so much inspiration, and then feeling nothing because the people weren't out there. So much of New York, yes, it's the buildings, but it's the hustle and bustle of the people. It's you walking outside and you also feeling safe because there's so many people. You going to the subway and feeling safe because there's so many people. I think that's, you know, the cities that feel safe are the cities with a ton of people. You know, when I go to LA and I walk 4 blocks to the beach in Santa Monica, but there's no one there besides just a random person lurking in the shadows, that's sketchy, even if you are in a fancy part, you know? So it was just, it just started feeling so alone in that city. And I missed, And I think we also learned, and I'm rambling now, but, you know, I think people kind of, you know, got these, whatever you want to call them, like quarantine bubbles, where it's like, okay, solid, like 8 people, we're going to stick to, you know, we'll only see each other. And it was weird because like in New York, like our close friends that we had left, and there wasn't really a ton of close people that we could like kind of, you know, hang out with like that. So we found ourselves just being super alone. And so naturally it's like, oh man, it would be really easy to hang out with all of my extended family that's like all in a 30-minute radius, you know? So yeah, I guess people's just, your priorities change once things happen. And for me, it was a pandemic.
And did you must not have thought it would be a tremendous loss on the professional side to shift, because, you know, we talk to so many people who are just getting started and they just desperately wish that they weren't in Gary, Indiana. You know, they want to be in New York or LA or somewhere like that, so that things can happen for them and they can you know, get going, meeting people and doing things and all that. You must have thought that you could get out of there and not lose a whole lot.
I think that is super important in the beginning. I am so thankful for those 4 to 5 years I had in New York, especially on the, you know, the climb up. Like I've been making YouTube videos since 2011, but I didn't really gain a big audience until 2016. So being there from the start when, you know, I started growing helped me so much, because New York is one of those places where even if people don't live there, they always come to there. So being, you know, central in Manhattan, having an office there, having things like a podcast or YouTube channel where you can collaborate with people know that you're there. They shoot the text, you know, hey, I'm in New York. Sometimes it's a like, hey, have fun. Or it's a, oh my gosh, we should meet up. Right. So that's what's so cool about places like that. And then once that ends and people aren't coming to those places anymore. Again, it's New York will bounce back in a year or two. I'm sure it'll go back to normal. This is definitely not a comment on like me, being bearish on New York. I think it'll be fine. I just don't have 2 years of misery to just like sit and wait. So it's one of those things that is so good, I think, in the beginning of your career. So even young kids, God, I feel so old. So even younger creators who are moving to places like New York and LA right now, I still think it's really worth it. There's still a scene. It's still centrally located. People are still visiting, even if it's not at the, the same speed as people once were. But then once you're established, you have all your friends on the internet. You can like hang out in podcasts like this. You can tweet each other. You can, DM them on IG. And so I think it's not as important once you're established. I think once I started seeing my videos slip, once I started seeing, okay, my surroundings aren't helping me with making more videos, they're actually hurting it. That's when it gets dangerous, because it doesn't matter. Y'all are very experienced on YouTube, so you can probably speak to this, but collaborations actually don't help as much as they used to on YouTube. Really, at the end of the day, it matters if you get a banger video with a good thumbnail and title and you just make a good video. And so when I was not able to do that, and I produced less videos and it was getting in the way, it was also like, okay, if I want my career to actually like thrive again, I think I need to leave. Like, I need to work at home. I need to get a space that is bigger than a 1-bedroom, because I started working from home and it's so hard to film, when John, my fiance, when we're essentially on top of each other, and we both are running YouTube channels. So the ability to now have like, a 2-bedroom, and we have a den, so it's almost like 3 bedrooms, and that's insane. And like, we have our own offices, and so just closing that gap to where you have an idea and you're creating something, just making that shorter helps.
Yeah, I always found the idea of being a New York City YouTuber to be ridiculous because of this, because of the space thing. It was like, to me, I always understood why Casey Neistat made it work, because his channel was the city. It was him essentially documenting what it is like to be in New York City. So he used the whole city like as his content, but otherwise it's like,
I make so many videos inside. So, I mean, because for me, it was the thing, people coming through, because, That Creative Life, my podcast, I've put it on pause for now, but it was so good for that, because people were always coming through for that. So once all of those benefits stop and truly I'm just making videos inside, that's when it's like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. This rent doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, it's so expensive. I really don't want to gloss over the collabs not working statement, because I would love to talk to you more about that, because I do think that you have a point, unless you're really small. So we have had a couple of...
They don't work as well.
Yeah.
So I'll put an asterisk.
We've had a couple of creators, like Many Kudos comes to mind. Sumito Media comes to mind, who have done collabs with much larger creators, and it has helped them tremendously. Their channels have blown up as a result, because when you're going from 10,000 to 50,000, that's a huge deal, and that boost is important. But I agree with you, though, that once maybe you get to a certain level, and I'm not suggesting that there's a magic number like 100,000 or 500,000, I have no idea. It does seem like there are diminishing returns. Why do you think that is?
I think it's also the intentionality. So there will always be examples of those things working, right? Collabs working, but that's because it makes so much sense. It's like a channel, like 2 channels that have the same overlap with their type of content. So it's the perfect match. Oh my gosh, the audience for this channel is a perfect match for XYZ, and oh my gosh, they're in this video providing so much value, or they're funny, and so you give people a reason to subscribe. I think YouTube got to a point where it's just like everyone was going to conferences and like, hey, let's do like a collab Q&A or something, and it's kind of just like, okay, I didn't really figure out much about you, and like your channel is completely different than Sarah's, so why would I go subscribe to you? So I think I guess in the beginning, it was just much easier because the ratio of the amount of content to audience was so, it's the thing where YouTube has balanced out. Like there's a ton of content and there's a ton of eyes watching. 5 years ago, there was still an imbalance of a ton of people watching, but not enough videos. So the moment you saw a collab, oh my gosh, a new creator to watch. Great. I need more stuff to watch. Now I think very rarely people will be like, I need more YouTube videos to watch. I mean, I'll sit on YouTube for hours. So I think it's just people just have to be much more intentional. They have to be much more, it just has to make sense, you know? Like often, you know, with my YouTube friends, if it's out of the creative space or the tech space, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, how about let's just hang instead of, you know, filming a video. Or I guess it's just changed for me. And I like to allocate more of my time now to just focusing on titles and thumbnails and how can I make my video the best it can be. But that's a good point. Like it matters more too when you're smaller, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just that YouTube balance has changed a lot. So viewers are more picky.
Yeah. There's so many more options to subscribe to. Like you said, there weren't enough videos in the past.
Yep.
It's been kind of like this with music too. Like there were lots of crossovers and duets and things like that in the 50s and 60s, especially in things like country music, right? And it was a limited set of people compared to now. I mean, like now there are how many millions of people on all different platforms from audio to video who are all doing music stuff. Like it's impossible to even know who they are, let alone subscribe and listen to their stuff. So it really has to make sense. It seems like you've got to have a very good fit now. There's got to be a good purpose. There's got to be a good fit in a way that wasn't as necessary 5 or 6 years ago.
And that follows into videos, like your actual content as well. Because, I mean, think about 2015, 2016. All of us would sit every single morning, watch a Casey Neistat vlog with a title that coincided with only 10 seconds of the video. And then we would sit there for 10 minutes and watch the rest of the video that has nothing to do with the title. And now I think YouTube has shifted in such a big way where people are so precious of their time. And when they click on a title thumbnail, especially from a creator that they're not familiar with, if you don't immediately hop in to what that title was about, like I'm gone. Like you really want to waste my time right now with like a 3-minute, montage of you making coffee, maybe with the exception of like Emma Chamberlain, because she's people will watch her regardless. They're there for her, right? So there are different caveats, but I think just as a whole, YouTube has really shifted too. And that's why like I don't really vlog anymore. If I am doing something that's maybe more about my life instead of tech, I still try to rein it in and keep it super focused as well. Instead of just me yammering about, this and that, it's like, okay, how can I narrow that down? How can I have a really concrete video where it's appealing to not just my fans, but everyone else, and they won't get mad at me when they click on the video.
Yeah. It reminds me of how kind of antiquated the idea of like, I don't know what you call it, but like an intro, like credit thing where like,
yes, stop doing that, people. You can do it if it's 2 seconds.
Welcome to Vsauce 2. There's like some theme song that
plays
every time.
And it lasts for 20 seconds.
And
yeah. And those are fine if that provides value. And that's why I have the Sara Dietschy rhymes with peachy thing, because no one knew how to say my name. And I'm like, because just in my own life, I'm like, if I don't know how to say someone's name or I'm unsure of them, it's literally like a barrier to building a relationship with that person, I feel like, because you can't think of them. You can't be like, oh, that's Sara Dietschy girl. Like if you don't know my name. So I think intros that serve a purpose are great. Branding that serves a purpose is awesome. But if it's 20 seconds of you like doing a slow-mo clip of you holding a camera, like we get it. You're a YouTuber, so I know you shoot with a camera, like move on, So it's like, if you have an intro and it serves a purpose, that's great. But like, just don't make it 20 seconds. Just make it a little shorter and make sure it has purpose,
Yeah. Do you think that TikTok has changed things as far as attention spans and trying to get to the point quicker on YouTube?
Okay, that's Okay, I need to figure out the name of someone because I have a good answer for this, but I want to sound smart when I say it.
Okay.
I figured out his name. Okay. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, the good homie Tim Ferriss. I'm sure everyone knows who he is. He was interviewing Ken Burns, and that face. Do you not know who Tim Ferriss is?
You said Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. Was his really big breakout book. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has an awesome interview podcast, and he was interviewing Ken Burns, who is the famous documentary filmmaker, right? And he's made so many amazing documentaries. And literally, like in the late 80s, he was like optioning his documentary literally about like World War II. That was a 6-hour series, 1 hour each episode, to like the History Channel or something. And when he was making that, everyone said, this isn't going to work. Everyone's watching 2-minute music videos on MTV. People's attention spans are not there anymore. So I think this narrative has always been there. And there's always been things that you can point to that say, hey, people's attention. And I just think it's different because I think all of us will sit on YouTube and watch an hour podcast. I mean, I watch video podcasts all the time. Or I'll literally watch a 30-minute like a YouTuber sitting on their bed ranting about drama they're in, and I'll wake up halfway in the video and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know who they're talking about. Why am I on this video? So I think it's different. It just depends. It's just different platforms. And I think people's attention spans are fine. 'Cause I think long form content, and I think we've seen on YouTube, is like thriving more than ever. And maybe I have like this chip on my shoulder where like I just feel like I don't have time to make TikTok videos, so I'm just like but I'm a consumer of TikTok. I love it. I'll sit there and my feed is beautiful. It's only puppies and babies, and I love it so much. So yeah, I just think the time and place. I wish I had the time to make awesome TikTok videos.
You mentioned listening to long form things on YouTube, watching them. Slumber Reads is a YouTuber who does narration of horror stories, scary stories, things like that. Slumber Reads. Well, just today or yesterday, I forget when. Yeah, so he posted on Twitter his 30-day average duration on his videos. 1 hour, 18 minutes is his average.
What?
Oh my gosh.
How flat out bleeping because we're a family show nuts is that? I could not believe it. And it just shows that like he's doing these long form narrations. That's cool. And a segment of people who are into them are popping this on and sticking around for movie length stuff. It's insane, but it's there.
That's amazing.
Ooh, this looks creepy too.
I have a problem just sitting through movies, let alone long YouTube videos. But I guess that's just a me problem.
It sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, I think it's segmented now is really the issue, is that some people are drawn to that hyper quick stuff. Some people were really into Vines. And what were they, 6-7 seconds?
Yep.
That was short. That was an amazing fit for some people. And, I like incredibly long form things. Like I use duration to help choose which audiobooks I'm getting on Audible. Like if something is, 37 hours, I'm like, well, damn, that's good. That's going to be like 2 months of listening. I'm sure there are other people who look at that and think, God, I'm going to be bored 10 hours in, and they gravitate toward the short stuff. No, it's segmented now in a way that allows us to go to what fits us, whether it's Slumber Reads for an hour and 20 minutes or whether it's, some goofy 8-second thing.
Yeah.
One thing, I spoke with Inside a Mind last week, and Inside a Mind said something really interesting that I hadn't heard anybody say before, and that's that when he's making his YouTube videos, he first considers them like audio listening experiences and ostensibly like a podcast. And the way that I guess he writes his scripts and the way that he records the videos is so that people can pop them on in the background and not have to see. Meanwhile, the visuals in his videos are incredible. It's not like it's just like a grainy like ping that he stole from Google Images for, a 15-minute long video. Like the editing is incredible. But his first instinct when making the video is that I just want this to be entertaining kind of in the background.
I mean, a lot of people, I watch YouTube videos like that. So I think that's smart. A lot of times I'll just have, I love my ultra wide monitors. So I'll just have YouTube over here, have my email over here, have my notes, and so I'll multitask like that. So, I mean, I would say half the time, if it's not a super intriguing video that I'm like there for, I'll multitask while doing that. So I think that's super smart.
I can't pay attention like that, which is fascinating. Like I can have music on in the background because it's just like audible filler. But if there's a YouTube video, or I know Matt will watch entire shows in the background, like while he works. And I literally don't know how that's possible. Like how can you?
I can do that when editing pictures.
And I will not listen to music while I'm doing something else at all. Period. Flat out. Like unless it's cooking.
Really?
Like like cooking or something physical. Maybe I'll listen to music. But if there's any competition for like comparing words between two things, I'm really out. So yeah.
But you can watch TV shows in the background. You can listen to shows.
Yeah,
How is that?
So what type of shows though? Is it like The Office?
No.
Or is it like dramas where you have to pay attention?
No. Probably more often documentary series. So like I rewatched, I think it's called, what is there? BBC did an incredible 24-part World War II series in around 1970.
24-part?
Yeah, and it was, if you think about it being in the early 70s, this is only 30 years after, the end of the war here. So it was still kind of ripe and plenty of people were still alive and with it. It's an outstanding history series. And it's on Amazon Prime. And I've watched that a few times, but it was The World at War. That's the name of it. Took me a minute. But that's the kind of thing that you can put on in the background. And, well, it's going to be 22 hours of very good stuff, even though I know how it ends. There's no element of suspense in this.
That makes a little bit of sense, especially too if it's historical and the pictures give context. But I feel like that's very soothing to also listen to, though. And like you said, the ending.
Yeah, well, it is true. If you do need to disengage to really focus on something or take a phone call or whatever it is, you can jump back in and not miss anything critical. If I'm listening to like young adult fiction, which I like, audiobooks that are tailored toward like, 8th graders. I just like, easier stories. Sometimes if you miss 5 minutes, you've missed something that really matters and you're lost. Yeah. If I miss something about the Battle of Stalingrad, I can pop right back in and, be pretty okay with the rest of it.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
What are this leads, I think, into your examination of creativity with the podcast. Because right now we're talking about the three of us doing this all very differently, with listening to music and watching shows and what we can and can't do and all that. You must encounter, a lot like we do, a million different approaches, all of which succeed. What is the difference between where your mind was when you started the podcast, thinking about what creativity was, and where you're at now that you've done it a bunch?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's one of those things that's like such a journey with any type of content. YouTube videos has always been supernatural because like video. I love video. I love my first, gateway drug into this world was just video editing. And it was doing silly music videos and all of these. I just got obsessed with editing. And still to this day, I would say that's like the thing. If everything disappeared, I'd probably just edit videos and I would have a good life. And everything else kind of just follows. So when it comes to like filming or anything like that, I'm just a very visual person. So once podcasts kind of became a thing, and I'm a person who just loves listening to people just talking, Tim Ferriss podcast I've listened to for a while. And so I had these creative series that I did like 6 to 7 years ago now, 2015, math. And it was called Creative Spaces TV, kind of confusing since the podcast is called that, Creative Life, but it was a docuseries on creatives and their space and showed how they do what they do. And so I kind of saw this podcast medium as just like a continuation of that, and then it wouldn't take me like a month to edit, because those I try to get fancy, and it just took a long time to produce and come up with questions and stuff. So a podcast just seemed like a easier way to do those, and I could still talk to creative people, because I feel like if you have something where you're continually talking to people, it's so good for serendipity, and it just builds relationships, and you give that person something productive as well. It's not I'm sure you guys get that, hey, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? And I want to pick your brain. And it's like, well, what do I get out of that? Like what? And so I think a podcast is it's like a productive version of that. So, I got to say to next level people, like, hey, can I selfishly ask you the questions I have about your career for an hour, and then you're gonna get something cool out of it. You get to talk to my audience, and it's a piece of content for you. So really, to this day, in the beginning it started as, it's a way to diversify, it's not just my YouTube channel, I can build up this audio medium. And now that it's like probably 3 years after I started it, I'm kind of almost doing a 180 and saying, okay, Sarah, that was a mistake for you to only focus on audio because you are such a visual person. So now whenever it comes back, whenever that is, I'm just going to go full force on the video. I'm going to make it less work, because it just, you guys probably know, like having guests, and it's just like editing, and it's a whole thing, right? It becomes a second job. So yeah, and it was kind of taking away from my main channel, just because it did take a while to produce. So it's so funny. I've been on a few podcasts this week, and it's like I'm talking about podcasting on a lot of the podcasts. So people's brains might explode in meta-ness, but I could talk about it forever. So when I come back, and this is why I'm so intrigued by this Discord setup, I basically want to do it where it's just video first and it's live. So basically, I don't have to do any editing after the fact. I have my guest, and I'm not going to put a schedule on it. I'm not going to put pressure on, like, this has to be another revenue stream. Like, who cares? I can just, if it gets Google AdSense, it gets Google AdSense, and I can promote my own stuff if I want. So zero pressure there, zero pressure on post-production. And hey, if I have a super meaningful moment with a guest, then I'll just take that 10 minutes out and make it a proper YouTube video on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to mess with the clips channel and the main channel anymore. It's just going to be one podcast channel. And yeah, so that's kind of where my brain is at. Sorry, I got way more logistical. I think you asked me more higher level of like what I think about creativity.
Yeah, both are important though, because that's, there's that thinking about it thing, and then there's the practical reality of how it actually happens. So
exactly.
They're both pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
how the sausage is made is something that we actually like to get into, especially because, on the Create Unknown, we have gone through different phases and of those logistics causing problems and causing, wrenches to be thrown into the process, like video. So, for several episodes, we had video, and that increased the complexity probably tenfold. And
it's almost like you have to choose. And that's where I found myself too, because I was focusing on audio. And then I was like, okay, I need more opportunity for organic discovery. And because I'm doing both of those things halfway, none of them are succeeding. So I think, sorry I interrupted you, but what you're getting at is I think it's good to choose. Like, own the audio, send your people to the audio, or just own the video and send people to one. I just really fragmented my audience by being everywhere. I'm still going to post everywhere, like the audio. And so if people just are in that flow, hey, respect the audience. Like, they can find me wherever I am. But in terms of pushing people, I think that's where it just got a little fragmented. And then that's probably maybe what you experienced with video.
Yeah. We like to push people to the audio, and we post on YouTube, but we just use an animation that plays on every single episode. So there is like some sort of visual there, but it's not obviously us talking. But for the most part, we really like people to listen on things like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and stuff like that, because It's consistent in a way that YouTube isn't. And the ups and downs of YouTube are cool, but they're unreliable. There's like... It's,
cool? Define cool.
What's cool is when you have a banger episode and it gets, 100,000 views and you're like, yay, this is cool. What's not cool is when you don't have that and the roller coaster goes the opposite way. So
that's so true. Yeah. And that's what I experienced with podcasts, though, is it is so hard to grow. And the moment it's funny, it almost switched. Like YouTube, it used to be if you take a break, you're screwed. But I found the algorithm is now just like, hey, if you come back with a banger, you'll get your audience back. It might take a couple weeks. It might take some failed videos, but like you'll get back. With podcasts, it was just crazy because I was getting... consistently, across Apple Podcasts, like a crazy good episode, like a Linus Tech Tips would get like 40 or 50,000 downloads, but I would average around 20,000. And which I think it wasn't good in terms of the ad dollars. People, they want to see 100,000 downloads. And that's why I'm just like, you guys are unrealistic. You're paying like $20 for 20,000 of my most dedicated audience. Like, screw you guys. That's also why just podcasts frustrate me, is like the ad networks and stuff. They take such a big chunk. But also, where was I going with this? I was talking about, oh my God, I started talking about how mad podcast ads made me.
Discoverability.
Yes, discoverability. Yeah. And I took a break. So I took a break, and because everyone said, hey, consistency is huge with podcasts, and I believe them, and I was going hard, and hey, it was very consistent, right? Like around the 20,000 mark. And I took like a 4-month break. And then, I guess something happens when that someone subscribed and you stop popping up and they just forget about you. Literally, I would be lucky if I got like 15,000, but I started averaging around 10,000 downloads for audio. And I was just like, and there's no organic reach. So there's no way to like somehow pop on people's algorithm again, because that's not there. Mm-hmm. So that too kind of got me defeated as well. Like, for this to be successful, if I have to put more time into this than my actual YouTube channel, like I can't do that, because it's like, this isn't even my job, right? So it's just tough. And anyone who says they want to start a podcast, I say that's awesome. You do you, but maybe see if you can start a YouTube channel first. If you're a visual person, I think there's much more upside for people who don't have an audience. There's an algorithm. There's opportunities to collaborate with people on your level. Even if you each have 1,000 subscribers, you can come together and make dope stuff. And maybe you get surfaced on like 500 more people's algorithms. I think there's so much opportunity still on YouTube. Of course, it's more saturated, but yeah.
It does seem
cuts
like
both ways, though. Yeah, that saturation does help with discoverability. There are more opportunities for it. And you're right that audio is like getting into iTunes. Okay. When there wasn't a lot there, it was okay. But it's very, very slow growth if you want to start from zero and build something organically like that. It's a slog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like on the podcast side, there's still kind of like an old media gateway system where the people who
preach about it, we can get into it. I mean,
where
I hate
the people who are haves, whoever they are, Conan O'Brien or whatever, starts a podcast and all of a sudden everybody knows about it because it gets pushed. Whereas, Sara Dietschy starts a podcast and it's like, who's going to know about it? And how do you let them know? Oh, well, I just have to drag my people from YouTube where I did build a thing from scratch over there. But otherwise, it seems like
there's too many middlemen.
Hard game to play, yeah.
Yeah, the ad networks. Like, I don't think people know that, like, podcast ads all come from only like 2 huge agencies. And it's like 2 levels of middlemen. So it's like only these 2 huge, I think one of them starts with a V. I don't know if you guys would like,
Veritone.
I forget. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe that's one. And so there's like, there's those people who get a Squarespace saying, hey, I'm going to give you $20 million. I want 100 podcasts. That company then goes to 5 other agencies below it. Hey, here's $10 million. We need 100 podcasts. And then that company goes to the managers of the other podcasts and says, hey, here's, this crappy CPM. And with every middleman, they take a huge chunk. And by the time it gets to a creator, it's just not worth it. And that's why I'm such a big fan of, even with this Apple release with the Apple Podcasts, they're adding subscriptions. Even though Apple's taking the 30 and then 15%, it's still at the end of the day a direct source from your audience. So yeah.
What is that, Matt? You sent that to me, right? What is the subscription idea?
Yeah, Sarah, you probably know this in a lot more detail than we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just released at the Apple event yesterday or 2 days ago, and basically, Apple Podcasts is adding subscriptions where your audience can directly subscribe to you on Apple Podcasts. Now, this isn't RSS feed based, so there is still a little bit of like speculation if you post, say, your episode 20 to Apple Podcasts, because you have to go through their uploader. Can you also post that same podcast to Spotify and all? Of course, the subscription features won't follow, but so it's just a new feature. You have to do it directly through Apple Podcasts, their thing, and you have subscriptions. And I think it's like I don't know the exact prices and how much flexibility you have on it, but it's very similar to the app developer fee, where if you put an app on the App Store, Apple takes 30%. And then if you're making under $1 million, so for small developers, they take only 15%. And so with this new podcast feature, with the subscriptions, they're taking 30% the first year and then 15% after the first year. Mm-hmm. And so it'll just be when you go into Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe or become essentially a patron. Everyone's becoming Patreon. And, you can get special, I think it's like special episodes or something, or you can just flat out support them. So it's still a little wishy-washy on the actual specific features.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was ad-free.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of information. All we know is now people can directly pay on Apple Podcasts. So It's interesting. Everyone wants to land grab this audio space because everyone's doing it. But the nature of podcasts is not, it's distributed, man. So stop trying to put it in a box.
So you've talked to people who have been just, wildly successful with audio, with video, with books, just everything. And also people who have just gotten started. Yeah. At what point should people start thinking about getting money for the thing they do? So I thought about this. You were talking about this subscription thing on
the $1 million question, man.
Yeah, that's relevant to a lot of people. It's a non-factor for others. At what point, you start a podcast, you get going, or a YouTube channel or whatever, you do your project. When do you really start to think seriously about stuff like that? And is it destructive to think too early about it? 'Cause it seems like, you miss out if you go think about it too late. But is it also a problem too early?
Yeah, I think that's what's so tough for people, because it's truly a balance. And if you get into YouTube and you get into these things, I saw the most amazing tweet the other day, but they basically said being a YouTuber it's like one of the easiest jobs from the outside. Like, it looks so easy, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's actually like, in comparison to how easy it looks, it's like that much harder to actually be the editor, filmer, producer, all those things. So I think people who get into these like creative fields to make money, you're already starting behind, because it's like, if you're not obsessed with some aspect of the process, you're not going to be up until 4 a.m. to finish the edit on that video. You're not going to take the extra mile that's required to beat everyone who is trying to do it. Because it's like, you've seen the polls. Every kid and their mom wants to be a YouTuber. And so it's such a competitive field. And if you don't have that special edge of actually enjoying some aspect, I'm not asking everyone to trust me, I don't wake up every single day 24/7 and be like, I love everything about my job. That doesn't exist. But there just has to be some link to passion, because then you can do it and you will figure it out. So when it came to YouTube, I started making goofy videos in 7th grade. I didn't think of it as a job until I was probably 1920, I started doing wedding films, and there was really the feeling of like, okay, I love video so much, I'm going to do anything and everything that I can to make money. And so from it. And so in the beginning, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I didn't care. I just wanted a camera in my hand and edit video. So that came in form of corporate videos or wedding films and that type of stuff. So I just say the only thing that matters is that hunger, because if you have that hunger, it'll pull you through, and then it's different once you're established. With my podcast, 3 years in, it wasn't making a dent financially. So I love that it's this thing that I can do for my audience that I really feel like it's kind of like, sounds cheesy. It's not my giving back, but it's just like my, like, hey, I got you. Like, I'm here for you guys. There's all these like epic stories and nuggets that you should know. And I also like have this huge chip on my shoulder about traditional education. So if I can help with that, that's awesome. And that's kind of like what I feel like my contribution is. So I don't have to make money, but that's why I had to take a step back, because the amount of time I was putting into it was disproportionate for something that I don't make money from, if that makes sense. So once you're established, then I think you do have to weigh your time and more carefully. And you have to say, hey, after 3 years, man, we did our best, but it's not making it on the money. So even though I enjoy it, so I want to keep doing it, but hey, when I bring it back, let's do it in a more sustainable way to where it's not taking over my life. You kind of have to just face the reality. And it sucks to be like, oh, okay, this isn't this thing that you were going to bring, 6 figures in from, and because everyone's always talking about you have to be diversified. But it's like doubling down on YouTube is never a bad strategy, because YouTube is everything. YouTube eats all. So I think in the beginning, it's like, it can't be money first, but if you love it, you'll find a way. It might not be exactly what you envision being a YouTuber, but maybe that means being a YouTube filmer or a YouTube editor until it works 5 years down the road or something like that.
I want to go back to 7th grade real quick, okay? Because
oh God,
middle school is
starting to sweat.
Okay, good. This is what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
middle school is notoriously cruel for literally everyone, for every reason you can possibly imagine, whether you're too tall or you're too short or your hair's like this or it's not like that, whatever it is, everyone is getting bullied and being bullied. Now,
and I was that dork making the goofy ass videos.
That's where I want to get, Sarah. I want to get who was saying what about Sarah in 2011 making YouTube videos about guitar pedals. What was that like?
Yeah, man, I have such an adventure with school. Oh man, let's get into it. Okay, so I guess middle school was fine. High school is where I like really struggled. Middle school was fine just because there was so much stuff to do, and I'm really thankful for my family. I truly grew up not caring what other people think of me, so that allowed me to just dive into my hobbies and passions and like let's go for it. Who cares? And sometimes that makes you the weirdo who's editing on Friday night instead of hanging out with the cool kids, watching football games. I went to school in Texas, and the fact that I wasn't at football games on Friday nights really isolated me, right? But I'm like, I don't care about that. I don't want to be a part of that. Anyways, so it was funny, like in middle school, 7th and 8th grade, I went to a public school, but for some reason, like our teachers were really cool with, hey, you can either write an essay about this or you could do a rap music video. They kind of embrace taking projects and making them creative for some reason, which I'm actually really thankful for. And so, I was always that person who was like, oh, if we're doing a video project, like you want to be in my group. So I was definitely the person who was putting in the most effort. But it was fun. It was a blast. I mean, my first middle school video that, oh my God, I pray it's not online somewhere.
I pray that it is.
Man, there's still a few on my channel that people can go back and watch. But my first one was a Spanish rap music video where we basically rapped in Spanish to like covers of like the songs Grills. Like you guys remember that song, and like, this is why I'm hot. This is why. And I mean, Spanish project, art history project, my economics music video, rap music video is still on my YouTube channel to this day. It's called It's called The Law of Supply and Demand. It's a Nicki Minaj cover that we replaced with economics terms. It's really great. And so in middle school, I was just having fun exploring that stuff. And honestly, I like peaked in 8th and 9th grade. It was kind of when I was like doing well at school. I actually, I was cute. I didn't have zits yet. I didn't go through puberty. Everything was great. And then the moment high school hit, like end of 9th grade, I started to look around and I was just like, do I actually want to hang out with these people? Like, they're more worried about who's dating who and like who wants to sneak in alcohol to a party. And I was just like, I just want to go play guitar. I just want to go play basketball. Like, I've always been about my hobbies, so it didn't become a problem until high school when it became, hey, are you cool? You cool? You come to this party? And so I had a couple people.
Cool. That's gonna be
I'm going to go play guitar. And so, there was some lonely moments in high school, and I didn't really find my true friends until I played guitar in a band, and we played in, on Saturday nights in Deep Ellum, Dallas, and that was a lot of fun. But freshman, sophomore, junior year was a lot of just focusing on me, which in hindsight I'm thankful for. I figured out, okay, I stopped growing, so I'm not going to go to the WNBA. What's this music thing? Okay, I love guitar. Dang it, I'm not going to go tour with Paramore. Okay, I'm not as good as I thought. Hey, what's this video thing? So it gave me a lot of opportunity to explore my hobbies, to really double down on them, which now that I was able to make it a career, it was so worth it. But there was definitely moments in high school where, you just feel alone. You're like, hey, people don't want to make YouTube videos with me. People don't remember that that was dorky.
Right.
Posting to YouTube was, you're a freaking dork if you do that.
That's why I was asking, because now everybody wants to, and probably maybe not YouTube, but TikTok or Instagram or whatever. There are other, Snapchat, I don't know, whatever. But that's what everybody does. Yeah. But when you were doing it, and during the age you were doing it, see, I was way out of college because I'm 97 years old. So I didn't have anybody around me to really make fun of me. It was fine, just living above a hot dog shack, smelling weird and being weird,
Did you really live above a hot dog shack?
Yeah, it smelled horrible.
But you smelled weird long before that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You probably made the hot dog shack smell weird. There's somebody who owns a hot dog shack right now who says, thank God that guy who lived above us moved away because now we smell like hot dogs again.
Right, instead of Lieber. Ugh. Yeah, horrible.
So, Kevin, that's a good insight, though.
So there are two questions. One is for the episode chat. What is dorky now? So if you're in the same high school kid type thing, what do you do that makes you dorky the way uploading on YouTube would have been back in that day? And as you answer that, Kevin, what was dorky for us in our era? Because I can't even remember what would have been the equivalent.
Oh, I can. But Sarah, you go first. What do you think is dorky now?
Well, I think that's such a good point, because what I was about to say is I'm like, guys, that is the hack in life. Is if you can find, this is the formula, and it's so hard, but if you can find something that you like to do and it loves you back, so you're good. You're not auditioning to American Idol being the person everyone laughs at, right? Hopefully you have some people in your life that's like some parents that are like, hey, I know you're passionate about music, but you're terrible, so you might want to work on it or move on to the next thing. I had those people in my life. So you can find something you love that loves you back, but then it's also, it's in the zeitgeist. It's you see, oh my gosh, video is going to be everything in the next 10 years. This is a great thing to invest your time in too. Of course, I wasn't thinking about that. I got lucky with video being everything. So I think that's a great place to be like, hey, what can I be thinking of now that might not be cool, but it's going to be that in the future? So I don't know if I can answer that because I'm not in high school, but I think everyone always wants to fit in. And even though TikTok and having a following is cool, I guarantee you kids still are made fun of today for making that type of videos, because it is still not cool when you don't have followers. But you have to, you have to have those moments. Like, how are you going to get followers? How are you going to get a following if you don't have that journey of consistently uploading and consistently improving? So I think for everyone, the journey is never sexy. people didn't want to see the videos I was making when I had 500 subscribers, but it's the destination that then everyone's like, you're so cool. Oh my gosh. Wow. Like, you make money from this. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you guys have high school followers, but that might be an interesting thing for people, or maybe they have like younger brothers or sisters. Like, I don't know what's dorky nowadays. Cause I think also the next generation, I feel like they're like more empathetic. I want to believe that. I know they're still jerks and stuff, but I feel like maybe they're more understanding than what we grew up with.
Well, my answer to what was like, what got you made fun of and nerdy is video games, man. Like, if you were like a gamer, like I remember, I think I've told this story before. When you pre-ordered Final Fantasy VII at KB Toys, you got a free T-shirt.
KB Toys.
That's
wow.
right. And guess what?
There's
I
EB
never
Toys
wore that
EB
T-shirt
games.
to school because I knew I would get made fun of. And meanwhile, I probably played that game for 100 hours. Played it through a couple of times and loved it, and it was a big deal to me, but I would not that and anime. I had like one friend in high school.
That's what I was about to say.
Who I would talk to about anime, and we were like the weird kids who, the weird smelly kids, again back to the smelly thing, in the back of the class talking about Dragon Ball Z in 1997
and
or
look
whatever.
at it now. And I think that's a good example for something that's still a little dorky. Like, sometimes I'm like, John, I don't care about your Attack on Titan obsession, but you can tell, like, oh my gosh, wait, this anime podcast has 1 million views per episode. What? Like, I think that's on the verge of truly taking over the world.
Yeah, superhero stuff too, man. Superheroes were
Yeah.
lame in the 90s.
Yeah,
Marvel
true,
was
yeah.
bankrupt. It was over.
It was grim. Yeah, it was grim back then.
And now it's the entire movie industry.
It's everything.
And people reference it, every day. And it's the entire Disney Plus lineup is superhero stuff. It's everywhere. So
That's so interesting.
it's
Well, I
way
remember
different.
Magic Cards came out in the mid '90s too, and that was hyper nerd territory. It was kids playing Magic the Gathering, and now 25 years later, that's been a huge thing for a long time. Nobody thinks it's weird. Hearthstone is massive on its own. Dungeons and Dragons, in a broader sense, is it's lovably nerdy. Nobody disrespects it really anymore. If you play D&D, people are like, "Oh, that's cool," even if it's not. For me, they don't think you're like freakish for it. And
Pokemon cards
you can see
too.
and you can see the contrast with how they put Dungeons and Dragons in Stranger Things. That was part of that plot to show that those kids were like the reject outcasts.
Right.
That was perfectly representative in 1985 or whenever that show is set. But those kids would have been nerd losers playing D&D.
Yeah.
And
Johnny
now it's like,
Millennium
you
talks
make
about
up stories?
because he's about 10 years older than we are. So like he was doing like the hardcore video game and anime thing in the late 80s. And he's that's why one of the reasons I love him is that he's such an OG on all of that stuff, because he was pretty much like one of the Stranger Things era dorks just playing like TurboGrafx 16 or whatever and loving it and importing games from Japan before they came out in like 1990.
Wow.
Yeah. Those people exist.
I mean, if you think about it, what it takes though to be a successful YouTuber or a TikToker or what have you, it's building a community and people who are obsessed with something you're also obsessed with. So it makes sense, right? It's hard to see during those times, but it makes sense that, hey, you have an audience because you struck a chord with, these 100,000 people that are also obsessed with comic books or obsessed with video games. So as you go into adulthood, and I think that's the huge nostalgia play we're seeing with Pokemon is, I haven't thought about Pokemon for 10 years, but when I was a kid, oh my gosh, the Game Boy games, I had a huge binder of holographics that I can't find.
Oh no.
I swear if they're first edition, Like every time I go to my parents' house, I'm like, okay, are you sure you don't know where that binder is? Like, but it's so when it comes back in this way, I feel like I can immediately hop in and enjoy it because, oh my God, that was my childhood. Right. Mm-hmm. And you have all of these. So I think it is smart to think like, hey, what are these niche things that have maybe a small passionate crowd attached to it that maybe it's not the cool thing, but it's only going to grow,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Before we get into our audience questions, I just want to throw out the most random thing, but I thought of it this morning and I just wanted to talk to somebody about this, okay? This is nothing to do with anything, so please.
What a lead up.
Yes, like hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
It's this. The Bush's Baked Beans commercial where the guy has the talking dog and only the talking dog knows the secret recipe to why Bush's Baked Beans are so good. Who came up with this campaign? It makes no sense. Like when you're thinking about, okay, we need to market our baked beans, okay? And that's like a pretty boring thing to like jazz up. How about this? How about we have the founder and his dog, and the dog knows the secret of how to make the baked beans, but he's not telling anyone. And then plot twist, he can talk. This is the most insane thing I can, like, in the world, and no one bats an eye at how weird that is. Am I wrong?
I think you have a really good point. I think beans are so boring that they probably, like you said, they're so boring that like they have to come up with something so outrageous that gets people's attention.
We had a guest or two accidentally rub up against hate speech, but there's been nothing like this.
I'm so sorry, guys. On a real though, I probably have like 10 cans of beans left from my like pandemic first shopping trip where I thought the world was ending, and I was like, we're only gonna be eating beans for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's why Tabor loves beans, because that's how he lives.
They're very nutrient dense, and they certainly last forever.
So sorry I offended anyone out in the audience.
But baked
apologies
beans are amazing, absolutely amazing. So speaking of Bush's Baked Beans, when we've talked in the past about how Kevin and I were kind of in the same position, both in like the hometown and beginning to do the online stuff. And, I would see him probably once a week at the bar that he worked at. And, I was conserving money and food at the time. And I got this deal on 72 cans of Bush's Baked Beans.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the big cans too, not the little ones, but the big cans, 72 of them. They showed up, and the UPS guy needed like a hand truck to put them on the porch. He's like, oh, what's in the box? I'm like, beans. Just took them inside. But yeah, I ate Bush's Baked Beans for like 6 weeks, just straight out of the can. God, it was the best. And I had a big beard at that time, and baked bean juice like really is hard to eat with a big beard. So I had a full towel next to the desk that was just like the bean towel that I would wipe my bean face with after I ate.
See, this is why I bring this up, because I can just go off about how insane I think the commercials are, and then Matt has a frickin' bean towel story. That is 100% true and 0% embellishment. It's probably even weirder than you're making it out to be.
No, I remember it was gray.
How often
and
did you wash the bean towel? Once a week?
Probably not very often, because if you think about the amount of surface area on two sides of a bath towel, and compared to your face, right? You're probably getting
a bath towel, like a full size towel,
full on bath towel, yeah,
full
on bath gray bath towel, yeah, like Turkish cotton, right? So if you think of the size of your face and how many times that could be pasted on two sides of a bath towel, each side has like 16 vertical wipes. Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, I will say I'm like watching the commercial now, and the layers to it, like the fact that the dog is advertising that he knows the recipe and it's for sale, is pretty funny. There's some quality storytelling, and
I know.
I can just see Don Draper from Mad Men just like whipping this campaign up and being like, "This is my best work."
Right. There are more questions that I have. Okay. So if the man dies, if the owner dies, is the dog the new owner of the company? He's the only one that knows how to make the beans.
Nah. Dude, he's selling the recipe and retiring to Hawaii.
Oh.
He wants to sell it. There's so much motivation in this commercial.
Is that
He made
truly
flyers.
man's best friend though? Isn't that like betraying his master? Selling out?
That's what I'm saying. It's a bit more spicy than you remember.
I just really wanted to put that out there. I never heard anybody discuss how ridiculous those commercials are, and I find that frightening that we all can just accept this like 25-year-old ad campaign about this man and his talking dog and baked beans. It's so weird.
This is the quality content I came here for, to be honest. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Wasn't the guy's name Earl or something? I remember the dog saying, like, roll that beautiful
It's
bean
Jay.
footage.
Oh,
Jay?
Roll that beautiful bean footage. Yeah, that's another element of it that I forgot to
good.
that's a weird catchphrase. Roll that beautiful bean footage is how we learn that he can even talk, as he says
But
those
Sarah's
words.
right. Sarah's right when she says that beans are boring. They are inherently boring, right? And I think getting completely insane about something works if it's contrasted with it being that boring.
Right.
Like if a company that made like baking flour had some, thing where like, unicorns were like farting out flour into bags,
Right.
it probably works. But
Yeah.
if it's like a legitimately like interesting product, it probably seems goofy. So no, the boring element is probably what makes this, when you lay it out, Kevin, when you describe what's happening, it is like LSD fever dream.
It is. It's psychotic.
Yeah. It's truly crazy. Yeah. And it didn't occur to me until you brought this up how strange the whole thing is. It's
Thank
just
you.
a funny commercial, whatever. But yeah, it's a really odd concept.
So weird. And no one notices. We just accept, like, yeah, that's the Bush's baked beans commercial. What's wrong with you? Yeah. The
still
talking
use them?
dog knows the recipe. I'm sure.
Is
What
that
are they going to
still a
switch
thing?
to? How can you switch campaigns from that? Where do you go? It's impossible. You can't go anywhere from there. You're
Dr.
trapped.
MacArthur asks, how high do you think the writer was when he wrote the commercial? I really do wonder what like the pitch conversation was from the agency or the marketing.
He was
people.
probably just on a lot of beans, man.
Right.
He was just inspoed.
Yeah.
This
On the
is
beans.
an episode. This is finding out the origin story of this is at least 90 minutes of podcast.
We'll have to work on that. All right. I just had to throw that out there because I thought of it earlier today.
appreciate that.
And it would have bothered me not having to, be able to get it off my chest. So before we let you go, do we have any questions for Sarah from our patrons?
Yeah, we got a few
Questions.
here. And let me see which way to order these. Oh, so yeah, we've got a question about that first video. Jeff has a question about what's your favorite guitar, and I want to tack a thing on the end. What pedal did you review in that very first video?
Okay, so I'm proud. It was a good pedal. So it was a full tone soul bender. So it was a fuzz pedal, but it wasn't just any full tone soul bender. It was the one with the germanium transistors, not the silicon. So it was the more rare version. So because of that germanium transistor, it had more of a warm tone opposed to the kind of plasticky sounding of the silicon transistor. So that was what I was trying to show in the video, because really I posted on YouTube because I just wanted to sell it. So there was a guitar forum that I don't know if it's still popular, but it was called The Gear Page. And every day after school, I would just some kids would go on Facebook, I would go on the gear page, and I just had a guitar gear obsession. And so I was always like selling and flipping and buying new gear. So it really started as, hey, if I make a good video, I advertise this pedal on the gear page, I'm sure it will sell quick. So I uploaded it to YouTube. And that was kind of my first aha moment, was when I went back to it after 2 years, and it went from like 100 views to like 5,000. I was like, what? People are searching for this? This is crazy. Because, apparently a lot of people wanted to hear what that pedal sounded like. So that was kind of my first aha moment of like, wow, searchable content works on here. This is how I can get some of my first audience, and do that. And favorite guitar, I will say, what was it called? So when I graduated high school, so I was very lucky where every Christmas, basically my grandparents would like contribute a few $100s to my college fund or whatever. So it's like, as a kid, that doesn't sound fun. I want a toy, but so I had, like $15K in the bank for college by the end of high school. And it's so funny that my parents let me do this, but I was literally like, I tried so hard in high school. I got a scholarship, I got a good ACT score, top 10%. So I got my college scholarship, and I'm like, because I got the scholarship, can I dip in to the college fund and buy this dream guitar? This was like a $4,000 guitar. And once I got into video, I sold it in order to buy my first camera. But it was called a Fano. So it's more of a boutique brand. And so it's Fano guitars, and man, it was like one of the most gorgeous things I ever played, and it was so fun. I totally forgot the model. Oh, here we go. It was a Fano PX4. And man, or PX6. It was the coolest guitar ever. But I had a ton of Gretches and Gibsons. I was a Gretsch girl. I had a semi hollow body. Loved that. But this Fano PX6 was like my dream guitar. Looking at it now, it's so gorgeous. But yeah, maybe I can show the chat. Let's see.
How do you spell Fano?
Fano. Let me see here. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up there now looks like a Firebird style kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just had like gorgeous humbuckers, and it had those block inlays, like with the pearl. Ugh, it was good.
That's awesome. What was your favorite, Kevin?
My favorite? I mean, I don't know if I've talked about this, but my dad builds guitars by hand from scratch.
What?
So yeah, I'll send you his, it's just LibreGuitars.com. And you can see, yeah, he worked on Jerry Garcia's guitar, the Tiger. So yeah, he builds by hand, like $32,000 guitars that are basically museum pieces. They're ridiculous. Unreal. So he has a guitar that he made called the Butternut. That's the nicest guitar I've ever played. Just the sustain on it.
This is your dad?
That's him, yeah.
Oh my gosh, those are gorgeous.
Yeah, that's him holding a spider grinder with, that has a movable pickup system that he patented. So you can slide the pickup on each string independently of another.
Wow.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
So yeah, definitely one of his guitars.
That's amazing.
And did you have to sell some in the move, or do you have like a stable now that is not going anywhere?
Here's the thing with me is like I have no sentiment to anything I own. Okay. So the moment I saw video as my future, I sold everything. Guitar was such a big part of my life. I played in a band, like we have an EP out. It was such a fun phase of my life. But when I'm done with stuff, I'm like done. So I still have my this old Fender Strat that it's like my old uncle's guitar that I had refinished. And I had a person relic it to a seafoam green, and it makes it look all old. And I put new pickups on it, and I put a new neck on it. So that one was a little bit sentimental, and it was the cheapest one I owned too. So I didn't mind kind of moving it around. And yeah, I have a very small pedal board that I made a couple years ago when I was feeling nostalgic, but my guitar setup is nowhere near what it was. I mean, that helped fund my video career. I just sold everything, literally everything. I had like a Gibson Studio acoustic electric guitar, a Gretsch semi-hollow body, that Fender, had a Gibson Les Paul. I had just like, a 10 pedal board. It was crazy, but yeah, everything is sold. And that I sold that when I was like 20, and I was like, okay, I guess I got to buy video equipment now, because this is me now. This is me now.
Yeah, I used to have quite a few, and when I was, you can't travel very easily with one, let alone, if you have 8 or 9, and they
exactly.
they fall out of possession. But there's always, 1 or 2 that tend to mean something that you keep around, whether it's that Strat or the butternut for Kevin. That's cool.
Yeah. I regret selling my Gretsch semi-hollow body. It was like, that's the only regret I do have. It was 6120 AM. I can't believe I remember that. But yeah, a Gretsch 6120 AM. It was so pretty. It was like a yellow. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. I wish I kept that, because that was just like, yeah, this is it. Okay, let me switch here. What is this?
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I have a very similar one in that, that obnoxiously bright orange that they use?
Yes. Like the Chet Atkins model?
Yes, yeah. It's like, in the right light, it's a little reddish, but it's kind of more like a traffic cone than a reddish.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like that. But they look good. They last forever. I mean, they're really incredibly well made. That's good stuff.
Yeah, like this guy.
Yes, that's the color. And you can see even from those photos the variation, that it's like, oh, this is kind of a honey orange. And then in others, you're like, no, this is kind of a cry for help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what's so funny about those too is like, there's so many different versions where it's like, oh, if you have that one where it has that G branded on the side of it, that person has money. Like, what is he doing with a $5,000 guitar? Who is this person? Yeah,
the subtle differences between the lowest end models and the highest end, like they're really, you got to know what to look for, because on the surface they do truly look the same.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. That was too nice. We have to go hard on you here, and this is from Dan.
Yes, hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, so Dan pointed out that you were just on Dave Mesa's Golden Hour podcast. You live streamed with Tyler Stallman. Why did you cheat on us? And why was your experience on The Create Unknown the best of those 3?
That's a really good question. So, it's so funny that everything just like happened this week, because I feel like, well, you guys, you emailed me several months ago. So I feel like just starting this week was the first week I've honestly felt mentally prepared to like talk to anyone in like a capacity that I feel confident enough. Because to be honest, it's like, I think you always have people like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? But this past year has been a complete wash. So I think it's like, okay, let's open up the floodgates, everyone. It's like, hey, person, remember when you asked me 6 months to be on your podcast? And I said, please, dear God, no. I'm ready now. I don't hate myself as much anymore. So, yes. Why is this the best too? Okay. I think it's the beans conversation. Honestly,
that's right.
You guys really come prepared and really just ask the hard hitting questions.
That is the right answer.
And I would say that's why this is my favorite by far.
You're not going to get beans anywhere else. And if you do, it's a second rate copy of what we do here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is back to the tech and gaming side, I suppose, from Jeff. Are you still enjoying your Xbox Series X?
Yes. Okay. Funny thing is, I'm not allowing myself to set that back up in our new place until everything else is done. Like, we have so much still to do. Like, we had the floors done. We did like polished concrete, and like still like the trimming needs to be done, and like our kitchen cabinets need to be painted. And I'm like, I do not get to enjoy anything. My Xbox, I don't get to continue my Halo campaign until our apartment is done. So that will be my reward because I'm playing all the way through the Halo campaigns again. And it's just like, oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. I don't know why people hate when I tweeted about that though. People started talking about, oh my God, what's the prequel one? Halo. I'm so excited for Halo Infinite. But
somebody says Reach in the chat. Is that accurate?
Reach, yes. People are like,
MacArthur,
oh, have fun. Awesome. But like, you know, of course they gave their opinions on what their least favorite was. And a lot of people said Halo Reach. And then like, I played it. And maybe it's because, you know, that came after the fact. So it was like, once I went from Reach to Halo 1 to 2, it almost seemed archaic. But I thoroughly enjoyed the campaign on Halo Reach. Maybe people lowered my expectations. And so I was just blown away. But I've played Halo 1 through 3 of the campaigns. So it's fun to like have something that's new. So Reach, and then when I get to 4, which I hear has a terrible campaign, it'll at least be new. I only play Halo and NCAA football and like Madden and stuff. Those are my Xbox games.
I think that sometimes people just need to say things because like last night I did a tweet that I'm playing Final Fantasy 2, which was Final Fantasy 4 in Japan, but it was 2 in America. And all I did was post a photograph of my Super Nintendo with the game in the console and just wrote vibe check because that's how I was decompressing after another long day of work, was just playing that old game. And somebody just replied, Final Fantasy 3 is better than 2. And I'm like, I didn't reply, but I'm honestly, like thinking to myself like, yeah, it is. So what?
I feel like you need to tweet that.
What are we talking? I didn't say. I didn't say Final Fantasy 2 was better than 3. I'm just playing it. So
I feel like there has never been more wise words than sometimes people just need to say things. God, that is so true.
Yeah.
It explains a lot. It really does.
Yeah, and that's it.
It does.
And I just saw that. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's cool.
Yeah. Like, let me enjoy the things I'm doing. Chill.
I've played through Final Fantasy 3 a couple times. It's great. It's definitely better. I agree, man. You are right. You are correct.
That's so funny.
It's not why I'm playing this right now, though. I also like this. I like a lot of stuff.
Leave me alone.
So Jeff asked about video games. Dan wants to know about transportation. Are you still rocking the Tesla?
Still rocking the Tesla. I actually started filming my review today.
Oh.
And you heard it here first, guys. I made my first oopsie. I pulling out of my parking garage, and this is something that people said when getting the bigger wheels with the black rims, is they're like, oh, it scuffs so easily, like, and then it doesn't look good and you can't paint over it. And I was like, you guys just don't be careful. I'm not gonna run into curbs. What are you talking about? Well, I was in a hurry today pulling out of my parking garage, and it was a really tight turn, and I just nicked the curb, and I now have a huge silver gash on my beautiful black rims, and it was so depressing. But yes, still enjoying the Tesla. It's a joy to drive. It's after 5 years of no car, it was like a very natural fit. I don't have to worry about oil changes. I am very familiar with tech. It doesn't bother me that everything is controlled via the big iPad at the center of the car. It's a lot of fun.
Does every tech YouTuber have a Tesla?
Yes. Yeah.
I think they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I tried to resist. I was like, okay, I want a nice car. I'm going to treat myself. And I tried to do the thing. I, watched a ton of Doug DeMuro videos. I checked out some like Porsche Cayennes and the Macan. And I always went back to the Tesla. And I thought I was going to be cool and not get a Tesla. And then just the more you watch and learn, you're like, man, I want to be a part of the future, And then you commit.
And you got to get Tesla. Yeah, but now that you're back in Texas, you got to get the truck, the Cyber truck.
I know. I'll let John get that because I can't do those big cars.
Well, you're in a better spot to zip around in an electric car than you were a year ago, and that's the next question, really. Overall, I mean, you're kind of back home into that part of Texas. Are you adjusted to, like, how is it being back?
Yeah, it's been like I would say the biggest thing right now is just getting our home in order, since it's the same place that we work. I didn't know actually how much it would affect me of like ordering a couch that doesn't come until June and like little stuff like that. Yeah. So I think we're just going to really be in flux for the next couple months. And I just have to be okay with, the space isn't going to be perfect until, in a few months. And so I'm just trying to get, also like working while you're moving is so hard. So it's just like everything is kind of like halfway done. I should have just honestly taken months off and just said goodbye to the internet and then come back fully ready. But because I'm, also still making YouTube videos and doing things, it's kind of like, well, my audio is still terrible because my sound panels aren't up, but we'll get there, guys. So, but in terms of like my human, it's really great. Being able to just like, I'm only 30 minutes away from my parents, which, is actually like, I thought 30 minutes was quick, but in Texas, you got these big highways and a ton of traffic. It's like a healthy amount of distance to where it's like, okay, you're not going to want to go. It's, it's a good boundary, basically. I'm not going over there every single day, but we'll go and get dinner with them like every other week. So
the buffer zone. It's a good buffer zone.
Exactly. And it's good to be closer to my extended family too, because just, people are getting older and I need to spend more time with grandparents and stuff. So it's good for the soul.
Absolutely.
Speaking of good for the soul, this one's from Marco, and it's the last question we've got.
These segues. You're good at this. Nice.
Thank you. It really is tough, though, because the questions can range. We've had, really serious ones about creativity. And then, like a couple weeks ago, we had one about what's the longest you've ever peed. So they run the gamut, and when you see the whole list.
A great audience there. I love that.
When you see the whole list, you've got to like kind of in real time order them in a way that kind of makes sense. And this set was a lot easier than most, which I don't know
Good
why,
job,
but it just was. But it's a two-parter, and the first one is what little things make you happy, and after that, we'll get to the product review. So what makes you happy? What little tiny things make you happy?
I appreciate that question. Man, tiny things that make me happy is just hanging out at home with my fiance John and just like chilling, watching movies, watching a show. We're rewatching Scrubs right now. So like, I think sometimes YouTube can be all consuming. People get mad at me like, sir, you haven't posted a video in 10 days. And I'm like, yeah, but like someone's trying to sue me right now. So I'm worrying about that. So it's just like, there's things that people can't talk about it, but it's just the nature of the job.
Plot
so
twist,
it's like
us.
when I
That's right. How
I
dare
told you
you?
to rule the creative podcast world. This is how we're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, when you're dealing with like so many like incoming opinions, like just those simple things of like goofing around, taking a walk outside, playing catch. That's why I think Texas, there's just so much room too. It's much easier to get outside and do some of that stuff. Just like joking around. Things got heavy this past year, so any moment of goofiness I can have with John or my mom is just like, man, that's like what life is all about right now, I feel like.
Stupid is awesome.
I would say those things. Yeah.
Goofy and stupid is amazing. And I think a lot of people,
what
like on a
life's
serious note, now understand the value of ridiculously stupid things in the last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you need it for the world to go around. You need humor. You need just like lightness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of goofy and stupid, there's this thing that's been going around about a phone case that, the title here is Creepy Human-Like Skin Makes Your Phone Ticklish and Pinchable. If anybody has seen this, it's kind of a skin toned,
What's it?
Perfectly neutral skin-toned, skin bag for your phone.
Like it feels like
Wait,
human
phone
skin?
or phone case?
Yeah, do we have the link in the episode chat here? It says
I hate
it has
this idea.
mimics the squishy haptics of human skin.
Oh.
So, that's where we're at. The question here is, would you review that product?
Oh my gosh. I need to see it first. Okay, mimics the squishy. I'm going to try to find the it's a phone case or it's a phone?
It seems like a phone case that wraps around devices such as smartphones and makes them
my God.
tickle.
No. Hold on. I'll put it on the screen.
It says it responds to different forms of human contact such as tickling, caressing, and pinching.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is terrifying. It
is a
so
skin bag
terrifying.
for your phone that you can pinch.
Ugh. This is why I stopped doing Mind Blow.
I would say hard pass.
You wouldn't even review it?
Hard pass. I don't think I would be even able to like hold it.
You wouldn't tickle it just to see if it responded to tickling? There's no element of curiosity that would make you fiddle with this thing for a few seconds. I have a hard time believing that.
Satisfied with life that I do not need this in my life. It's like hot sauce. It's like I don't understand why people eat hot things. There's just some things in life that I just don't want to be a part of. Like really hot sauce and phone cases made out of skin.
You don't want to plumb the depths of tech, though. Like, I feel like if somebody was like an astronomer or something, and they were like, oh, by the way, you have an opportunity to hang out on the surface of Jupiter for 10 minutes. Would you, as a professional who's devoted your life to this, be interested? And they're like, no. That's I don't want to do that.
I will say, reading this article, I'm like, I think it would make a good YouTube title.
Yeah.
So I would do it for views.
Yeah. That's right.
There, at the bottom of the press review, there must be 20 articles here. And looking at those titles, it's kind of harrowing. Artificial human-like skin allows you to tickle or pinch your smartphone. Some editor wrote that headline. Other people call it creepy. The phone's skin that can feel the user's grasp. Faux flesh phone, USA Today called it.
Flesh phone.
Fleshy
that doesn't
iPhone.
sound right.
Oh my God. This is like, I can't. Hold on. Have you guys watched the video?
No, I've only seen still photos of it.
How much does it cost? It must be expensive. Does it have an MSRP?
Let's see. Hold on.
I'm curious about that.
Let me see if this works. I'm testing out my new setup, guys, with you.
Would you play with it, Kevin, if somebody gave you one? You know, you get one in the mail. Do you throw it away?
Without
or
hesitation.
Do you...
Sure. No, I would check it out.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm curious.
So this is interesting.
Oh my God.
It's functional. It doesn't just feel weird. Oh God, I had it before the paywall hit me, but it said that like if somebody uses the like laughing emoji, it will transfer the sensation to this skin so the other person can feel
it has
like
haptic
a fun tickling.
It must be really expensive then if it has like haptic feedback responsive behavior.
It's too much.
It might
People
not
are
even
too
be for
bored.
sale. This might just be some weird like MIT thing, like student project.
Or it's like a growth hack. It's like actually a legitimate phone company and they're just trying to sell their other cases.
Well, I'm glad we got that question to end on because that's a good one. That's one of those things that a little bit stupid, a little bit goofy that makes you happy. Everybody's smiling right now.
Yeah, or cringing.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine sticking your hand in your pocket to grab your phone and you think you're grabbing your leg.
You grab your phone and it feels back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
Well, now that we've disgusted you, I think that this has been a successful episode, and I just want to thank you.
I love it,
Sarah, so much for coming on because, like I said, at the intro, I definitely think it's been a long time coming since you're interested in talking and thinking about the same things that we are, including baked bean commercials.
Yes, exactly. No, I appreciate it. And I love what you guys do. So it's an honor to be here. And it was fun chatting. And I'm sorry I cheated on you guys with 2 other podcasts.
It's okay.
It's all right.
We love what you do.
Sorry.
And we hope you enjoy being the second best creativity podcast on all major audio platforms. Good luck to you.
Love it. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
For sure. And good luck with all of the unpacking and the painting and the trimming and the cabineting. And, hopefully someday soon you will get to re-enter your Halo campaign as your reward for all of your hard work.
Man, one day.
And we'll have links to everything in the show description here. So, this episode's over. Pop on over and click these links, because if you like this podcast, you will love Sarah's. So check it out. We'll have all the links, and hopefully it's a good addition to your life. But yep, we'll put it all down there for your perusal.
Yes, peruse
Appreciate
away.
that.
Peruse away. All right, we are out of here. Thank you again, Sarah. Have a great evening. And until next time, everyone listening, we will see you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We'd like to extend a huge thank you and congratulations to the Tots and Dumpster crew who save tiny little lives every month. A tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang: Trevstad, Boromir, Bot Dogs, Chinchilla, Isaac, Conrad, James, Jeff Davis, Patrick Pister, Baseweight, and Dojangles. And thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry: Jen Meffisanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Risebread, Sean Malone, Triple Question Mark, Monahan, Ryan Kinder, Sheep, and Maruko. Thank you as well to our producer and editor Ben Webster, and to our media manager Dan Yosua. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production.